me. This is an opportunity for me to share, primarily spread the idea of composting. So that's why I'm here. Not, I mean, the secondary that we're talking about product design, for me, it's more important that I can reach at least 10 new people who have not composted and get them to compost. Um, so I can't see anybody here on the screen because um, I've got the full presentation on. If anybody wants to stop me in the middle and ask questions, please feel free. Otherwise, I will just run through and then we can have a question and answers at the end.
Yeah,
So,
that's how we
yes,
do it. So not a
yeah,
problem. Please.
okay. So let me see. Yeah, okay, this arrow works. I run Dailydump. This is a 16-year-old brand. People actually look at us and say, "Oh, you're a waste management company," and then I don't know how to answer that. And then they say, "Oh, you make products." So what was primarily the motivation when I began in 2006 was making things was secondary. I wanted to see, I wanted to explore how do you change perception, how do you change behavior, how do you get a new practice in place? Because I believed that that practice was important for all of us, considering the fact that we were going to have this exploding cities, very dense exploding cities, and also the fact that everybody's dustbin, yours and mine, in Indian homes is 60% organic. So, given these two data points, my interest was, can design actually intersect with this issue, and what would design be able to do? So, that was the motivation. And cut to now, we have just launched a new product. It's called the Terabyte. So, from 2006 to now, um, so the whole point is you can ask, so what's the big deal? It's a new product. We are product designers. We are a design community. This is what we do. And so this entire conversation I'm going to have with you, or at least right now, it's going to be a monologue. I'm just going to share with you what I pinned down as a reflective kind of journey to ask myself, okay, how did I get here? Because I didn't start off wanting to make a product. And why am I calling this a product and not calling the other things that I've made products? So that is also the title of the talk. I started by saying I want to design symbols that would allow for change. And now, after 16 years, I've ended up with a product. So let's see how this, why it evolved and what was the pathway. uh, when you sit down, I have the advantage right now because my hair is grown old, white. I've reached 60. So, you indulge yourself and say, okay, I'm looking back and why did I do what I did? And I put all that question into three big buckets. I believe that I was in the right time and place. And I believe some of the decisions that I took were the result of what I believe is my burden of being middle class. And the other thing that why I did what I did was I was very, very clear that I wanted to design for idea adoption. That was my primary focus. So those decisions were based on these three lenses. So let's start with the school that I came up. I believe that it was at NID at the time when design was actually being formed. The discipline was being formed. And I don't know how it is now because I don't know how students feel when they go into design school. But in my time, in 1979, when we went to design school, it was a big contrast. I mean, you're coming from a convent school and you go into this design school, the contrast is so big, but it does some really positive things to your ability to look at the world fresh. Your curiosity levels go up. You're engaged more with ideas that you never thought you would engage with. There are no exams, and you know how we all felt at that time. So that was one. It actually shifted my paradigm of what I thought the world was and what I thought my place in the world was, and I got a sense of, oh my God, I can actually engage with these big things, even if they're big and they're intimidating. It's okay. I mean, I'm allowed to engage, even if I'm not an expert. So design did that for me, and I know for a fact it did it for a lot of people in those years. The other thing is design, when we were there, and continues to do so. Every college student will feel this, is that we had a lot of meeting of ideas and counter ideas, and we were exposed to even it was like historically, if you look at consumerism, those discussions around these ideas when after the war and that time, the World War III, uh, these kind of discussions we were privy to, and we were discussing all this and India was young at that time. So all this was, we were at the crucible of that beginning, right? And I think that impacted a lot of the decisions I took when I was either teaching or doing the work in Dailydump. And of course, we had, I don't know how many of you are familiar with, or at least you must have heard of the Javaja project. I had the opportunity with my batchmates in product design to actually work with Ravi Mathai. And we would, and his idea, as opposed to say, Victor Papanek, while he was quite interesting and very provocative, I think there was a sliver of his articulation that was a little patronizing to the South, to the global South. And whereas Ravi Madhai took the other side of, showed us that, how do we get communities to become self-reliant? How can they do things for themselves? That they should be released from dependence. What is it that we need to do to design that to happen? And those ideas also very powerful. My batchmate and me actually did a whole lot of work with the Javaja project at that time. That also impacted our understanding of handwork, craft, how it works for people, what it does to local communities. And I think that was very valuable for us, for me to learn at that time. And I actually had at home also a lot of design discussions, because my dad was one of the first designers also, and he was involved in spreading the idea of product design. And so having conversations at home across the dinner table were also part of this growing up. So it was like the fact that design was not primarily on making alone, not on forming alone, not on aesthetics alone, but how could design actually alter something for the better. Those discussions were very real in my, even at home. So what happened was, as I moved from school into my professional space, I had the opportunity of creating, like, carrying a bit of craft, carrying a bit of SME, because I worked with my dad in his manufacturing plant. So it was all, I was still at small scale, it was my bias or preference, or even you can say my not my strength, but my weaknesses were all in scale. I was not exposed to a large Tata kind of project, or the big mainstream projects. So it felt like I was still engaged with things that were human scale. I needed to be able to understand something. And so I took that into when I started developing work at Shrishti, the ideas that were happening. I was traveling all over, the ideas of green design, eco design. I met a lot of people who was working all over the world on that, had lots of discussions. I remember the Cumulus, and we even initiated some cross institutional projects around sustainability. I was very involved in seeing how we could bring those ideas into the classroom. How do students engage with it? How do we engage with it not only inside the classroom but with the real world? So all these projects were located in the real world, either a case study outside, or or we were applying for a grant, something like that. So we've traveled across. It took me about 12 years of teaching, and I really believe that when you teach, you learn a lot yourself. I mean, in the sense, it really crystallizes ideas that you're exploring. You're trying to get under, you're trying to get around. And also, you're also, I reached about, say, 40, 42. By then, I had finished doing all the explorations in my head. and I was ready almost. It was like, some people say, why did you start Dailydump? I said, I didn't start Dailydump. It's almost like Dailydump started me. It almost felt like that because it was a culmination of all of that I had that from NIT. Also, it was like synchronous with product design as a discipline that grew. And all the ideas kind of came and settled at one point, at a tipping point, um, where the biases, the preferences, the weaknesses, politics all got together. And somehow I said, this is what I must do. It was not a rational, planned decision. It was not at all like how you see today incubator, set up a business plan, get the money. I didn't get any money in the beginning. I said, this is what I want to do, and I went and did it. So it was almost like I was still naive. I was still, part of me was still a student, part of me was still an explorer, like I was during the time I was teaching. And it didn't weigh me down. But what did happen was that I was focused, that the because I didn't have the money, and I didn't go out, and I didn't have the um, and I think it was because being middle class, I really felt, how could you go and ask people for money? I mean, it's not done. You manage with what you have. And that those were the values that was very inside my DNA. And I couldn't shake them in the first 10 years of doing work with Dailydump. And I said, no, my job is to really get to the core of this thing that I'm trying to do, this beast that I'm trying to say. I want to change the mindset. I want to change the perception. And I'm going to do it with design. So I concentrated all my efforts on doing the work. And didn't have what do you call it? I think the skill sets and abilities to look at the managing of this enterprise. Because I didn't set out to make an enterprise. That was not the idea. And because of this problem and this um, weakness of not knowing how to put together an enterprise, uh, I reached a point when I said, okay, now to scale, I need money. And so that was the time when I realized, I looked back and I said, I've made all these products. I have done products that are simple, that shifted the idea of composting. That means into a dirty space, from a dirty space into a cool space. I managed that. I've spread it because part of it was open source. The way of doing it was make it open source. To get lots of people to copy it. Put out all the material out there so that people could use it. So we've had lots of copycats. The idea of spread was, let me do the spread first, and then we'll think about the money, then we'll think of the enterprise. So all the design decisions were, how do you make it easy for somebody to copy? How do you make it easy for somebody to use? How do you make it easy for somebody to adapt and share? How do you celebrate that adoption and sharing? So those were that was what I was preoccupied with. And we reached a time where the government, of course, there was a total sanitation project before, which Kapil Sibal had taken the Khamba, which is this product which you see here, and got it launched by Amir Khan for the school sanitation project. And when this total sanitation project morphed into the Swachh Bharat movement, again, the government then took over. And those are, our products. That's our model. That's our photo. Then the government started using it across all the spaces of Swachh Bharat. They made films on this. It became something that everybody else could own. And that was the intention. And we felt, okay, now we've reached here. Now let's look at what we need to do to earn a little bit of money. Otherwise, we just have to shut shop. And we also found that there's a lot of adoption, lot of sharing, lots of influencers coming. Then people started understanding, composting is such a great activity. And when somebody composted, when somebody got successful, they would then go out and become an evangelist, and they would make films, and they would share, and they would become the expert. And so that's when we saw there was a sea change. There were lots of influencers that were coming up, and then lots of competition also. So we look back about when we were 10, 12 years old, we saw that this has happened and we said, okay, this now we need to get real on. Are we going to be a company? Are we going to do products? What should we do? And we didn't have the money at that time. So then we said, all right, let's go from here to some Jugaad. And so for 2, 3 years, we worked with Jugaad. We took a something that's bought out, less capital investment, created prototypes. We put it on the market. It was like getting customers to get feedback with prototypes that were there to test. And it's only now that we put some money and said, all right, we'll build a product because now we know that the market is ripe for convenience. The market is ready to pay for convenience. The first product we designed, it would fail on product design attributes as a good product. It was not easy to use. It was heavy. It would break. But it did its job of actually shifting the mindset. It did its job of creating a movement. And the story was, and we could have taken, I could have taken a decision to make that in plastic. But it was a very conscious decision saying, no, we need to change that perception. That perception needs to stay for good. It needs to be a symbol that will stand by saying, this is something that I'm proud of. And that's the story of how we move from the symbol to the Jugaad to the product. We have no idea whether we will continue to do or stay alive because it's still a difficult job to sell product because the barrier to actually composting is very low. You can do it in a bucket. So why the hell would you pay for a product? So how do you tell the story? And now we've got a CEO, and he's the co-founder. And I think that he will work hard to scale this. And I would just like to end at, if you're not composting, you definitely should try it. So I'll stop now. And I'm very happy to take questions.
Thank you, Poonam, for that very interesting perspective to how design can drive social change and behavior. And this is probably for the first time you actually have a company which says, let us make it easier for others to copy. So everybody's trying to protect their IP, so to speak. And here you are you're saying, okay, let's make it easy. I mean, let more people copy, spread the word, and money baad mein dekhenge.
No, but I think that's in fact one of the IMA professors wrote to me saying, I want to make a case study. I said, you can't make a case study on this because this is not the way people can do work. That's what I'm saying. I had unique circumstances that allowed me to do what I did. I don't think this is replicable in that sense. It's very hard because to keep yourself financially viable while you are giving all of this away free, right, is not investable. The returns are not there. The margins are absolutely small. So from the business perspective, it doesn't make sense. But I think what I would like to underwrite is the more and more we're coming to butt against our limits of finite resources, right? We need to rethink on how we're going to grow what matters to all of us. And for me, that was an experiment, and this is a personal experiment in that direction for me. And I'm lucky that I have the luxury to do this because it is a luxury.
Anybody, any questions? Please click on that hand button so that we'll know. Yeah, Gokul, go ahead.
Ma'am, I'm short of words to admire the kind of social commitment from which you have done this. Because though it's all said and done that everybody has kitchen waste, and the right thing to do is to just compose it and then make it into the best soil you can ever have.
Yeah.
And with which you can also then start your own kitchen garden, and then you will get your good health, you will save some money, you don't have to go to the market. There's no pesticide, there's no chemical fertilizer. It's the seed of a lot more better life. And being an evangelist in this kind of an area is something which is, I'm falling short of words to understand. Is this also, as a technology, you're also using the basic what you call culture from cow dung to start all this?
No, we're using a consortium of lignocytic bacteria, which is natural. And we have a biochemist, a bio chemist who makes this, and he gives it to supplies to us, and we supply it to our customers.
Okay. So the starter is a lab-made culture.
Lab-made culture.
Okay. Thanks.
But you
All the
can
best to you.
you can shift and use cow dung based culture also. It's not a problem. But important thing is that in you have to put your carbon. Decomposition is an exothermic reaction. It needs nitrogen and carbon and oxygen for aerobic decomposition. And so if you balance these three, then you don't have any smell and you don't have any problems. And I mean, we've seen the evolution now. Like when I started, I sold the khamba at 300 rupees. Today I'm selling at 3,000 rupees. And the potters also have seen livelihood, but across India we are losing potter skills. Potters who could make such big things on the wheel no longer don't have the skills. So now they've reduced themselves to bartan ke size ke pots. So so we've seen a lot of change about the potters. The potters we've been working with, they have actually increased their lifestyle has improved a lot.
Okay.
And so they have earned, which is really nice. But I'm still I haven't solved the problem of how do you do good and still make a living wage. And if you contrast it to all the IT companies across in Bangalore, I mean, there's no way we can match salaries for anybody. Even their peons get more than us. So, I mean, where do you start, right?
Amazing. There'll always be a way with so much of noble intent. Wish you all the best.
Oh, thank you. No, I'm hoping that my CEO does some magic. Let's see.
Any other questions?
I see Professor Rao here. Achutha Rao is here.
No.
You, sir?
That is.
Yeah, I'm there, Poonam.
How are you?
I am fine. Very nice
Yeah.
to see you. I recall the day where we did the. I think it started with the program that we did with.
Yes, absolutely,
uh,
absolutely. Yeah.
So the three institutes joined together: ISC, NTTF, and then
Yeah.
SISTI.
Yeah.
That was a very good experiment that we tried actually.
Yes.
That was the
Yes.
beginning of this.
Yes.
And
Beginning
yes,
Dailydump. Yeah.
yeah, that was the thing. And so it's very nice to see, ultimately you launched. I think you did not show those industrial, the large scale products and all that thing, right? You did the
Yeah.
the big
Because
ones. There was a
this was
large
what we
scale
had.
for the,
Yeah.
yeah. So
We have
anyway, you
those
have
also.
focused on a particular stream of thought. That is, I think you are prepared for that.
Mm.
But actually, I think the differentiator is that bacteria, which is really what is the skill required to see that it sustains in all sorts of environment.
Correct.
I think that's where probably a lot of work could still be done on that. Yeah.
If anybody knows of anybody who's creating great,
But then there was somebody from actually a Canadian inventor. He's having a product. I forgot the name because he had come to us to. He was making for houses. Then the BBMC said for an apartment for 200 houses you have to build scale up this because they have made a mandatory now this this thing. So he was a lot of demand. So when I asked him, he's actually importing this bacteria from the Canada, and the Canadian person has given free. In the sense, anybody can take this project. But only the thing is, I mean, you can copy the design, but it's an industrial produced product actually for apartments where you have large number of houses. So basically, but you have to import the bacteria from there only, and it's very I was surprised that it has a very broad life. It can work in Himalayas and it can work in 42 degrees centigrade in Nagpur. I mean, that is a kind of bacteria they have developed, and that anyway they have to continue to import from him. But it's a very efficient in 1 day cycle only. It is yeah, 1 day cycle. So you put today, tomorrow you will have compost.
Oh,
And only the problem was that it has got electricity connections, and to maintain the this is the whole this thing. Maybe good for apartments. I do not know, large scale dump where we have large scale waste generations.
right.
Yeah,
Right. Okay. You need mechanized. Okay.
yeah, it uses power, and it's an industrial kind of production process.
Right. Right. So yeah, if there's no more questions, I think
I think they have yes. I think because it's your talk is a very different line in terms of as a not as an entrepreneur, you said, right? I think rightly you said that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether I'm an entrepreneur, a product designer, or what.
Yeah. So you are an like I think you're like an explorer, experimenter, and that's probably where you had your career. This thing. So normally there will be a lot of questions in terms of scalability and financial matter. In this talk every week we'll have how do you really grow to the globe and things like that. I think that probably that is the audience.
We're having issues on that itself, because I want to ask this group, because this group has got like lots of product. Does anybody know good very economical rotomolding person? If anybody knows, please tell me. I need to know, because this terabyte is actually rotomolded. So
where you got the first piece from here actually, right?
From Aurangabad.
Aurangabad. So there, I think even in Kamakshi here in Bangalore, there are a lot of units which who makes water tanks for all the companies, almost all the companies actually on this thing. So maybe we could work on that rotomolding process, but it's a manual process that he is having. If you are look for some Germany collaborated process, that will be very nice. And so maybe I will just put you across that company where he makes lots of and multicolor. The inside one layer and the other side the outside another layer. There are 2 layers that they make.
Yes.
It's a huge unit actually in Kamakshi, on road or our this thing. Here, very near to Vijayanagar, my place actually. So
okay.
Proud to see that.
Let me know. Yeah.
So it's a rotomolding process. That means easy. Investment is down, but I mean, it's still not large investment that you have made on the tooling part of it.
No. I invested 25 lakhs on the tool. The CNC mold. Yeah.
Merchant. But the rotomolding will not, because of the particular, the surface undulation that you have because of that problem.
Yeah.
Unmesh, go ahead.
Please raise the hand.
Yeah. Unmesh, please go ahead.
Suresh is here.
Suresh Chandrasekhar is there. I hope you know him also, right?
Yes, I met him.
Hi, Suresh. All right.
How's your composting design going, Suresh? You're on mute.
Suresh, you're on mute. I think he can't hear. So anyway.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
That project is done and handed over to the client. So they're doing some trials in Mantri somewhere. Where they have larger, like hundreds of things where their volumes are quite large, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And yours is a mechanized system, right?
Mechanized. Yeah, they want mechanized because they are even selling that, because how much they can put in their own garden. So after some time they start to fill it out. Yeah.
Unmesh, go ahead.
Sorry, my mic went off. So hi Poonam. I think we got a few months ago and we catch up every few months.
Yes. Nice to see you.
So no, I think this is great what you're doing. for the sake of design community, I think what I have seen is, the entire Dailydump, I would say, initiative or a thought or a project is seen, with a lot of respect, but lot of few people understand it. So of course, these kind of presentations will help. But what could also help is, if there's a way to make such enterprise, say truly scalable. And I'm not saying just in terms of profits or money, but in terms of how people understand it and how they could emulate.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so perhaps, I think that, my thought is, are you thinking on those lines? Because one is, of course,
Yeah.
your passion driving it, but other thing is, how do you institutionalize this? So how do you make it like, understandable or immutable? Like I know there are copycats,
Yeah.
but people taking it up.
Yeah, no. I think that's a very that's the stage we are in right now. We are also asking ourselves. I mean, how do we scale this for impact? I mean, in the sense, everybody should compost, right? I mean, it's
Correct.
ridiculous to throw organic waste to the landfill, and what is it going to take for us to do it? And even now, after 16 years of talking and talking and talking to whoever is willing to listen, I still meet a big chunk of people who say this is not my job. The government should have some technology, and technology seems to be a very big panacea in their heads that's it's going to solve this problem. And so it's like you're not only battling mindset against waste, you're also battling this mindset that we're being developed, or being like China or being like Singapore means that you should not have to do this at home. We should have a public system doing it, or
Public system, yeah.
Yeah,
In
or a
fact,
public technology that does it. And so
yeah.
that you individually should do it is another big problem. It's a big barrier.
Yeah. So in terms of real impact, how do you create scalable systems at a community level, at a city level?
No, but I think that's it. That it's like saying, somebody has to brush your teeth.
Correct.
How does that happen? I mean, why would anybody come and brush your teeth? Your teeth you brush, no?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't see
as that. Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
But
And
have
then
you tried
complain.
different business models, like claiming carbon credits, or I don't know, there are a lot of these greenwashing things come in, but in your case they could be truly applied, right?
So the carbon credit thing, I think we need to explore a little more. We had a session where we said, all right, we're picking up so much compost, so therefore we can aggregate it and then get a carbon credit on that. But the problem is ours is so decentralized, right? So they're wanting proof that if I send one composter to Kulkarni, then is he really doing the composting today? And then I give you a carbon credit tomorrow for today. So it's, the more decentralized the solutions you have, the less
more complex to measure.
The less you can dovetail into such schemes, because they're all based on aggregation, big, predictability and all. Decentralized systems don't have that. They're not predictable. They're not aggregatable. So, and yet, if we want that our landfills emit less emissions, if we want our soil to be healthy, we have to start valuing this one habit.
You mean to say self-initiation is probably the way, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I try and tell people, you have a fridge in your house, it delays death, right, of a tomato.
Yeah.
This is a composter brings life to your dead tomato. Which is better, life energy or dying energy? How have we confused our heads? No, so it's also, I think it's
one of our the person who is one of the person who is supplying those composters. The best part is the apartment guys don't do it. They are told him to, you come and do it.
Yeah.
So he has a person there full time who does it for them. Can you believe it?
Yeah. No, that's what every day we face. No, Even when we go to apartments, they want us to come.
They just throw it down the chute, and that guy goes and collects and puts it in the thing, and he gives it back as a compost, and rest he sells because they don't want to do it. That's the best part of it.
No, and the important thing is that what we're not realizing is that as our cities become denser, they become bigger, they have a lot of migrant population going. Your other economies, so to speak, are growing. So there's a disparity. So what happens is, I, as a person who's migrating, we don't want to do also this job. I don't want to go to Mantri and pick up your waste and put it in the composter, right? Because I would rather have a job as a watchman in a mall. I would rather have a job as a... So it's like saying, I don't want to touch my waste, but I want somebody else who is uneducated to touch my waste. Now, okay, that's fine. To some extent, you can look at service economy like that. But touching waste itself has got so much stigma, right? So you're not going to get this lot of people who are saying, yes, it's a great thing. It's going to take another 10, 15 years before even that dignity of work comes in.
Yeah, and surprisingly, what he told me was, so they try to place these composters in every apartment at the basement, okay?
Yes.
See,
yes.
And they requested the apartment owners to come and dump it into put it into that. That's all. That rest, they said they will take care. That they don't want to even do that.
Yeah.
That's the sad part.
Yeah.
They're ready to throw it down the chute and somebody has to do that. That's what they want to do.
Yeah. And I think around waste, what has happened is, because it's a built infrastructure, right? Architects don't want to listen to us. Yeah. Architects don't want to understand that you have to design for waste.
Okay.
So they'll not build spaces of capacity. They will try and between the builder and the architect, they'll take decisions of the chute. The chute is an absolute no-no in India. You shouldn't have chutes. Yeah, so these kind of things, if you go and tell them also, and if you even sit down and give an analysis, they don't want to listen. Because one person would have gone to Singapore and said, Singapore mein shoot kaam karta hai, we'll also do. But what you don't realize is you don't behave like Singaporeans. You don't have the system. You don't have the cleaning requirements. Our maintenance, as Indians, to maintain some public systems, our report card on that is so bad.
Yeah.
So it's like, design is capable of creating these stories and creating these alternatives, but the adoption, because it's a behavioral change, mindset change thing, takes many years. And maybe one of the things that I told myself is, even if this hasn't happened in my lifetime, it's fine. It's something I want to do. You're not going to see the results of it even maybe in my lifetime.
And I think the apartments with the space constraints and not being, most people, at least in Bangalore, is still better. In many places like Chennai and all, where there is this water scarcity used to be, and then because of the heat, so the growth of plants and things they're not given priority. So then then there is no incentive for them to do that.
But there's no incentive actually to compost at all. You don't get a property tax from the rebate from the government.
I mean,
don't get,
I'm not talking, not of the government, but they themselves don't feel what I'm going to do with the compost. Where do I use it? See, that channel, if somebody says, okay, you make it and we will pay you and everything, or you give it, we'll put it in the garden, in the community garden, something, then it makes sense.
No. So what you're actually saying is what business guys have told me. Saying, why are you doing this? It actually, there's no reason. There is no incentive. There is no earthly reason why somebody should compost. You are spending money to do something where you don't get any benefit. It's a philanthropic act, because actually you can buy compost, ready-made compost from my own site, my website, for 40 rupees a kilo, right? You will spend double that or triple that to make compost in your house. So the economics, right, are completely skewed because it's an externality. We are not doing accounting from natural capitals, right? Our accounting systems don't account for this. Our financial systems don't account for this. We're not factoring the real costs. So everything is externalized. So we are saying, why should we pay? There's no incentive. Then what I'm just saying is that when I have this argument with people, I say, boss, it's all fine. You don't need to compost. But then don't complain that there is mess on the road. Don't complain. Because you're part of that problem. And it is not it's not in a, okay, therefore live with it. But it is literally, therefore live with the mess.
When there was a talk of carbon emissions and all, we're just reading this recent news from New Zealand saying that the government is going to charge tax on agricultural emissions.
Yeah.
Including cattle burping.
Yeah. I think that everybody's trying, so they're saying, okay, they'll do a carbon tax, they'll do an emission tax, they'll do some tax. Finally, at the end of it, all of these are the structural systems you try and put the checks and balances. But the human person, the desire to do that is a very, very difficult thing to turn the needle on. And it takes like, if you say slavery, right? How long did it take to abolish it? This is in that set of problems. And not only me, all the people who are working in this space, we're not going to see massive needle changing in our own lifetimes. But we have to keep at it in the sense.
Yeah, there are no. Yeah, you can't see the benefits in your lifetime probably.
Yeah, you're not going to see. Yeah, but I will honestly share with you that the benefits you have when you meet people. Every time I meet a customer who has enjoyed the process of composting and his ability to share that story, and I can see so many of them on now Instagram and all that, that is it transforms your way of seeing yourself in the world. And I think that's in addition to have all the wealth in the world, you say, I wish you well, I wish you prosperity. I wish people that window in their heads opening up. Because that is a window that opens up, and it's a delightful window to have in your own head, in your own lifetime. So I think that is really something that makes you feel good. I didn't know anything about composting before I started Dailydump. But it has transformed me personally. Yeah, we like to say in our, we have a thing in our office, we have a joke saying the composting makes you more Buddha-like. And why do you have to do composting? Well, you should do composting because you become more Buddha-like. You don't want to become more Buddha-like, but try it. I think the only way to do this is to have a lot of fun around it. Yeah, Nimesh, you put up your hand.
Yes. So Poonam, I was checking, have you been able to take this message to schools?
Yes. We do a lot of work at schools. Schools come to us. In fact, younger children are very much easier to work with. They get excited and they get, but I'll tell you one thing that we did. We wanted to check how do children between the ages of 8 to 16 respond to nature. So under the Hebbal flyover, when it was not all beautified just now, in the Hebbal flyover, we got 5 schools from different economic backgrounds to come over 3 months, twice a week to the Hebbal flyover. And we'd constructed a lot of exercises around the idea of nature. And after that whole exercise, we were asking them, okay, therefore, has your idea of nature changed? And one boy very sweetly, the 2 or 3 really very important learnings we had was, one of them said, it's all very well. You want me to be a tree doctor as a career, or you think that there's, I can look at the plumbing in a leaf, because they're doing some research to say that the plumbing in a leaf is helping doctors look at the plumbing in a heart and solve that problem. So we were telling them how the technology in nature is far more powerful sometimes with it than the technology that man seems to want to adapt. And we need to do a lot of learning from it. So he's saying, yeah, all this is fine. But my mother and my father have told me that if I don't pass my exams and if I don't earn so much money, if I don't have a car and I don't have a house, then that's not a good life. And another kid said, my relationship with nature is like a a bad internet connection, it's still buffering. So the thing is, like, while we say that you must love nature and all of that, actually when you sit and very deeply try and develop this relationship, it's a new muscle. You don't have that muscle. It's like mathematics, you need operacy, you need numeracy, you need literacy. This is not a muscle we develop in our schools.
That's correct.
And it's still something that I think, I feel designers should do a lot of work in areas like this, because it's where you can really make big impact. But I think we have to ask somebody from the business side to make it also viable. How do you make it viable?
So as a
So
business,
Poonam, I have a suggestion, and I think
Yeah.
I made it some time back. So there's a whole design community, and sometimes they like creative challenges, right? So why don't you throw a creative challenge at people? It could be at any stage of product or communication or whatever, and see how the community comes up to solve. So
Yeah, I mean, in addition to this daily dump, right? I mean, I've reached a stage where I really want to hand it over to the new CEO. We started this new project. I mean, you guys may be interested in that. We're trying to solve the single-use plastic bag, right? And the single-use plastic bag is most generated at the informal vendor level. Right? The informal vendors don't have access to a cheap alternative, which is also safe for the environment. On one side, we're trying to connect the dots between huge amounts of textile waste, which is textile waste. That means not virgin cloth that you want to use at all. And we have technology. We have India now is on the forefront of this technology. So we designed a system where we said, all right, we take the textile waste, free textile waste, so the cost is almost zero. We have lots of livelihood projects all over the country, so we can scale it based on that. The women who actually stitch, sitting at home, small shops, all of that. And they create these bags, but each bag has got a unique QR code, which is like the fingerprint. And we build a system of incentives through some amount of technology-enabled thing. And if you know anybody in PhonePe or Paytm, we wanted to actually ride on the financial infrastructure that exists already. These guys have already built the networks of vendors. They've already built the networks of citizens. So if I go and buy bhindi at a small vendor, we can do it for the big vendor much more easily. But for the small vendor, if I went and bought bhindi, I should be able to buy a bag at 6 rupees or 5 rupees. And that bag has a QR code. And at that time's interaction, that bag gets logged on. And so I start getting incentives for every reuse of that bag. Mm-hmm. The point is, how do you drive for reuse? How do you also then take back the bags, wash them and resell them or re-put them into the system? If you have lots of bags, like when we have newspapers at home, we sell off the excess newspapers. I don't know how many of you have Dunzo bags piled up in your house, how many have paper bags from Swiggy that are piled up in your house. But similarly, if we had the Deshka bag, and we call it the Deshka bag. So we just launched it on Tippasandra Market on October 2nd, Gandhi Jayanti. We want to grow this, but I think it's much better if we grow it on financial infrastructure that's already been created, like PhonePe and Paytm. So if any of you know any PhonePe or Paytm guys, please do let me know at the top level, because this needs to come from the top.
Yeah.
So to answer
I think this is brilliant.
Right? The answer to challenges is that I think what would help is, instead of anyone giving us I'm sure if 5 designers got together and said, okay, for the next 5 years, we've all reached a certain age, right? For the next 2 years, let's work on one problem together or something like that. That's how we started Desh for Kabak. I got 10 people together and said, let's all work on this together.
Okay, nice. So there's a story I know of a young industrialist who started to recycle PET bottles into granules in Aurangabad. He recently shut down, sad story, because he couldn't get the bottles finally. And he couldn't get the electricity for his plant.
Yeah.
I mean, all the MPs, MLAs have visited his plant.
Yeah.
It's like a showcase. And it shut down some days back. So you have stories of this kind.
Yeah, but my husband has a joke He looks at me and he says, "You are held together by duct tape and string."
Yeah, exactly.
Literally, I mean, Dailydump is held together by duct tape and string. There's nothing else. I mean, there's no rocket science. There's no management jargon. Nothing. We just kind of survive day to day, and we say, "Oh God, thank you. Tomorrow also we'll get up in the morning."
True, true.
And I no, but I'm proud of the fact that NID made me resilient enough to be able to do this.
Yeah.
I don't have to stand up to somebody and say I'm a success. I don't want to be a success.
True,
I want to
true,
do things I want to do.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I'm just saying at the same time, though it's a kind of a focus area. It's also some.
But I think definitely, if somebody told me, boss, I'll teach you how to become more viable, I'd be very willing to learn.
I know. Yeah, great. Thanks.
I think each one has his own definition or her own definition of success. Yes, many of them might coincide in terms of financial and respect and market reach and all that, but we have our own ways of saying, okay, this is what I want to do, and I'm successful if I'm able to achieve that.
Yeah.
Might not be the monetary part of it.
No, but I think that we've been very lucky as Dailydump. We've never gone out and said we want to talk to press. We've never gone out and said we want to do any media. We've had a lot of love and support from all our customers, a lot of love and support from the community. That we're very, very lucky to have it. A lot of gratitude for that. But it's still a very, very real struggle. From the viability side. From the work satisfaction side, it's been brilliant. And this goes back to our arguments when we were in college also. How are we going to make money? The stuff that we're interested in, nobody seems to want to pay for it. So, yeah. So, but how many of you are not composting? Let's start with that.
Sorry?
Are you composting, Suresh, after having designed a composter, but are you composting?
Yeah. I'm not using that, but I have made one contraption myself.
Okay. Yeah, considering you make idli vending machines, I'm sure you'll make a composter.
I mean, of course, we buy that pita, because sometimes I go down the street and there is so much of browns everywhere, so I just pick it up. Very wonderful, means really useful browns are there. I don't have to do anything because nobody uses it, so I just bring it and put it. But sometimes I also buy that small pita that
cocoa pita.
So actually, my wife is very passionate about gardening. So we have a small rooftop thing. So we keep spreading and trying. And if something excess is there, we have a small place outside. Our neighbor everywhere will put it.
But you know the demo. Are you Malayali?
No, I'm Maharashtrian.
Maharashtrian, okay. Well, Maharashtrians and Malayalis, both of them like composting. Yeah, I'm telling you the demographics of our It's easy to sell a composter to Maharashtrian and a Malayali.
Okay.
Yeah, we
have
have
a Maharashtrian, Maharashtrian. Not Malayali, sorry, Tamil Maharashtrian, then it's easier, right?
Maybe.
Poonam, you must shift to Mumbai or Kerala now then. That's one of the ways to realize.
Suresh, you're a Chennai Maharashtrian, right?
No, I'm
Bangalorean.
I'm now Indian. Let's talk.
No, but I'm just talking about the sales that we get from our website, right? In terms of distribution.
Correct.
Yeah.
No, that's correct.
Okay, I think.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you for your time. And please do spread the word. Any support to Dailydump, if anybody buys from our website, it really supports us. So simple things like that. Instead of buying your cocoa peat on Amazon, please don't go and buy from Amazon. Buy from Dailydump.
Yeah, I will.
You know, these things matter. Then it matters to small brands like us to survive.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, Poonam,
Bye.
for
Bye-bye.
this interaction. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Poonam. See you
Thank
sometime.
you. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.